Evening YouTube. Now I'm just doing a video tonight. It's another one just showing you what I've bought for the channel. My latest purchase, and that is it on the table there, the black one. That is a Marantz PM-48. It's from 1996, I think, and it's 50 watts per channel into 8 ohms. And I did buy this Marantz from the computer, and it is another one that is not working. It doesn't do anything. So when you plug it in and turn it on, it gets no lights, no nothing. So it is totally dead, this Marantz. So it will need opening up and going right through on the channel to see if I can find out why this old Marantz has got no power going round it. And it wasn't really something I was going after, this Marantz. It was not one of the ones I've been looking for. It was not in my watch list or anything like that. It was not one that I'd kept looking at. It was like a real last minute bid on this Marantz, because my missus found this on her phone. She's looking through at what's for sale, and she found this Marantz. So she went to me, here, look at this Marantz. She said, it's not working, it doesn't power up. She said, but it looks really in nice condition. And she said, and look at the price, it's really cheap. And it's only got a few minutes to go. So I went, here, show us, took her phone and started reading through about it, and it said, had been plugged in but doesn't power up or do anything. And then I was looking at it, and it literally had 15 minutes still left on the auction. So I thought, right, I'm going to have a cheeky little low bid on that, because it's not worth doing a load of money on it, because like if the transformer's gone in this Marantz or something like that, it's probably not worth fixing, because it won't be worth that much money. But there's always the chance that it will be an easy fix and it won't need money spending on it. So I thought, right, I'll have a cheeky little low bid and see if I get it. So I whacked my bid in at the last minute and I won the auction. And now it's here. I'm glad I bought this Marantz, because I really haven't paid much for this, and it does look in really good condition. And I did only bid low for it, because it's not like buying one of these vintage ones. Like say that Pioneer at the bottom there, that SX750. If you buy that not working, it's worth putting some money into, because at the end of the day, once it is all working, it's worth a load of money. Same as that little Rotel at the top there, that's worth putting a little bit of money into it, because at the end of the day, when they're working, they are worth a bit of money. But something like this Marantz, it isn't. So if it needs a new transformer or it needs a load of parts, it's probably not worth repairing. So you have to think like that when you're buying stuff like this Marantz. So don't spend too much money on it, because if it needs a load of money spent on it, all you have bought is a nice looking doorstop. So if I'm feeling the pots, the volume feels good, that balance feels really good and smooth, feels like it's working properly. Trebles feeling really good, all feels really smooth, like they're working properly. The bass feels nice, that selector, it all feels like it's working really well. The speaker buttons feel like they're working good. The on off feels really nice on it. All these selector buttons up here, they feel like they are doing what they should do. That button there feels alright. The only button with a problem is this loudness button. There is something not right with that. It doesn't want to lock in and it's a bit sticky. but everything else on the front of this old Marantz feels nice and smooth and feels like it is working properly. And I do think with this old Marantz that if I can bring this one back to life and get this working properly, I do think this Marantz might be quite a good sounding amplifier, because it is not a bottom of the range budget Marantz. It's a bit better than that. Like I said, it's a PM-48, so it's not low down in the range, it is somewhere in the middle. So it could be a nice sounding thing, because it is a Marantz after all. Now, I'm not expecting it to sound like a nice 1970s proper vintage Marantz. I don't expect it to sound like that, but it still could sound quite good, because a lot of these old amps from the 90s have got a decent sound to them. Some of them haven't, some of them are rubbish, but over the years I've had quite a lot of 90s stuff that has surprised me how good it sounded. So this Marantz could be one of them. Well, hopefully it will. I don't really know, because I've never had any Marantz in this series, like of this model. I have had other Marantz from the 90s that have been nice sounding amplifiers, but I've never had anything from this range. And I do like the look of this Marantz. Alright, doesn't look like a nice old vintage receiver, but it still looks quite good for a black 90s amplifier. This Marantz has got a good look to it. It does look nice and clean inside. Look, I'll try and show you through the vent there. Does not look like it is all full of that sticky fluff and goo. It looks nice and clean in there. It looks like it's got a nice big heat sink in there, and it looks like it's got a fair sized transformer in it. So it does look like this old Marantz is pretty well built, and it should be really, because I think back in 1995 or 96, whenever this Marantz is from, this would have been a lot of money. This would not have been a little cheap budget amplifier. If you bought this brand new, you would have had to have got some serious cash out if you wanted to take this one home from the shop. So I've just turned it round and I'll show you the back. And as you'll see, the back is in really nice condition as well. It has got no damage on it. Has got a phono, CD input, tuner, auxiliary and 2 tape decks. So it's got all the connections you want on the back. It will take 2 sets of speakers, even though if you want to run 4 speakers on this, they need to be 8 ohm or above. And it has got there a bit for remote control, so you might even have been able to have bought this Marantz as part of a stack system back in the day, and then this amp would have been linked into the other separates with cables, and the whole stack system would have worked off one remote. I've had a few Technic stack systems and a couple of Pioneers that worked like that. So they all linked up with wires, and then you could operate the whole system with one remote control. And if I remember rightly, with my Technics one, the amplifier must have been like the brains of the operation, sending the signal everywhere else. Because when it was all disconnected, the remote control still worked the amplifier. So you might find with this old Marantz that it's the same, and you could possibly get a remote control that will work this amplifier. Now, I'm not 100% on that, but that could be right, because that is the way my old Technics one used to work. So I've got my tape measure here, and I'll show you how big it is. So it is about 17 1/4 inches wide, or 44 centimetres. The depth on this one, that is about 11 3/4 inches or 30 centimetres, and the height of it, that is about 5 1/4 inches or about 13 1/2 centimetres. So it is quite a nice size, this old Marantz. It is not a little tiny amplifier, it is quite a big chunky one. And with that big volume knob on it and the way the front is laid out, I do really like the look of this Marantz. I'll show you sort of how big it is now, because I've got a Pioneer SX434 sitting down here, and I swear they are more or less the same size. So let me put the Pioneer on top and we'll have a look. And there, look, it is really the same size as a Pioneer SX434. And although they are the same size, they do look very different. So what you are looking at there is Hi-Fi evolution, because I think there's about 21 or 22 years between these two. I think that Pioneer is from 1974, and when I looked online, this Marantz is either from 95 or 96. So some websites said it was from 96 and others said it was from 95. So it is 30 years old or more, this Marantz. And when you look at the difference between that Pioneer from the 70s and this Marantz from the 90s, there is a massive difference between them. But if you look at brand new modern amplifiers, I bet you can still buy something brand new today that looks a bit like that Marantz. So the evolution of them in the last 30 years really hasn't changed that much. And it's a shame I haven't got one sitting here from the 1980s, because a lot of that 1980s stuff has a look about it all of its own. But saying that, I have got an amplifier or a receiver sitting on the table that is from 1980, and that is that Hit Parade there. But that is not a good representation of a 1980s amplifier, because I think that Hit Parade is a 1960s amplifier made by someone else and sold in the 60s, and then it was rebadged as a Hit Parade and sold again in the 1980s, because it does not look like a 1980s receiver. It looks like a 60s receiver, and when you open it up and look inside it, it really looks like a 1960s receiver. So I do think the Hit Parade is from the 1960s, really. And a friend of mine did have an amplifier made by Marantz that really looked like my one, but it was a KI limited edition, so it was a Ken Ishiwawa, whatever his name is. It was done by him, and it looked really like the one I've got, although it probably did sound a hell of a lot better, because it had a copper chassis and it was all reworked by that Ken. And I remember that one sounded absolutely fantastic. I listened to it a few times and I was really impressed by it. And that reminds me, I need to write amplifier by Ken Ishiwawa on my list of stuff that I want to buy, because I really want an amplifier made by him for the channel, because I'm after getting a few legendary amplifiers, stuff with a bit of legendary status. So I'm putting a little list together of stuff that I really want to buy, and so far on my list I have got a NAD 3020 on there, a Pioneer A400 is on there, Mission Cyrus 1 is on there because that is a legendary little amp. I've got a Harman Kardon 330C on my list because they are a bit of a legend. So I'm going to write Ken Ishiwawa on that list as well. So if you know of any amplifiers that you think that are a bit of a legend in the hi-fi world, please message me and let me know so I can write them down on my list, and then when I'm hunting on the computer I can have a look for one of those as well, because there probably is quite a few legendary little amplifiers out there that I'm just not remembering at the minute, or I don't even know they exist. And the ones that are out there with that legendary status, they are the ones I really want to get my hands on for the channel. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.